Welcome to MyLife, Tanya Applied with Rabbi Jacobson, a journey into the deepest teachings of Torah and their application to our personal, emotional, and psychological lives.
A good tavoch, good week. Continuing the journey into the life-changing Sefer HaTanya. This program is made possible by Rena Lights LLC, and it's in honor and memory of Rav Yosef Halevi Weinberg and Rav Moshe Pinchas HaKoyen Katz, all of our shalom. It's also the schus and the merit of Rab Zev Yecheskel and his wife Risha Katz. May they be healthy and well for many years. Also a special thanks to Rab Shmuel Plotkin, who initiated making this project happen. So where are we up to? So far we've learned the cover page of Tanya, where the Alter Rebbe establishes what this Sefer is coming to accomplish, the mission statement of Sefer Tanya, and that is to explain well the verse, Korev Elecha Dover Me'ed, that Torah, mitzvahs, Yiddishkeit, the relationship with God, with Hashem, is relevant, very relevant, me'ed, and very accessible to each one of us. On a deeper level is that it is indispensable. The single most important thing in life is to know why you're here, your purpose, your connection, and how to fulfill it. Tanya provides that answer to each one of us. That's the cover page. Then the Alter Rebbe, in the introduction to Tanya, which we are in the middle of, before we get into the actual Sefer, explains the uniqueness of this Sefer Tanya. There are many books that have been written, Sifrei Yira, Sifrei Musar, through the generations, by Gdei Yisrael, by leaders, by visionaries, by thinkers. So what's unique about Tanya? Secondly, Alter Rebbe is also coming to explain that it seems like what Chassidim would say is that it's much better to have personal audience and a personal advice from the Rebbe, where he can address our personal issues and tailor them to our unique situation, than looking into a Sefer. And the Alter Rebbe begins by acknowledging that that indeed is true. There are limitations, even in the best Sfarim. What are the limitations? And the Alter Rebbe enumerates three general limits. Number one is that when a person looks into a Sefer, everyone looks according to their perspective, their state of mind at that time. And in a situation where someone may be confused and unable to see the light that is concealed in that Sefer, so the Sefer remains close to him. Then the Alter Rebbe says, in Sfari Sifrei Yira, books of piety itself, there are different types. There's Sifrei Yira that are based on human logic, inspired obviously by Torah, and written by people who are fear God-fearing people. But it's common sense advice, so to speak. And what's the limitation of that? On one hand, it seems like it's practical advice, correct? But because it's Seichel HaAdam, the writer, the author, is using his intelligence, Ein Deus Ein Shavus. People have different personalities and different perspectives. So one Sefer cannot be for everyone. Then there are Sfarim, and this is the third limitation. Even Sfarim that are built, as he said, Baharei Kodesh, on sacred foundations, which is things based on Chazal, Torah itself, where there you have the Ruach Hashem. The Spirit of God is there because it's Torah. And every soul connects to Torah. So you can't say it's only for certain individuals and not for others because we have different perspectives. By Seichel Anushi you could say that. But this is Seichel of Torah. So here it's equal for everyone. And everything that everybody needs they can find in Torah. And yet, it's still Be'efen Klali, it's in a general sense. The specifics to apply to your specific situation may not be easy to find. And even though the Torah is also given specifically in detail, but as he says, not everybody is zeicha and merits to find their personal message, their personal lesson. To emphasize this point, we learned last week, the Alter Rebbe explains that Torah in general, it begins with nigla de Torah, even nigla de Torah. So even those directives for everyone, but we see that the Torah has many different opinions. Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, in general, 3 different paths, Chesed, Gvura, and Teferes. And the neshamas that are rooted in Torah have different personalities. This is even in nigla de Torah. V'kol shkem v'kal v'chemer. And here we continue where we left. And how much more so when it comes to Nistoris L'Hashem Elokeinu. By Nistoris L'Hashem Elokeinu. All the more so in the case of those things that are hidden, the hidden part of Torah. That's revealed only to the Eibishter, L'Hashem Elokeinu. What is this referring to? The inun d'chila v'rechima de b'meicha v'liba. This is the awe and the love. D'chila rechima is in Aramaic, ava and yira. The yira and ava, I should say. D'chila and rechimu, awe and love, that are in the mind and heart of each and every one. The chol chad v'chad, lefum shiuri delay, lefum ad meshayir believe. So every person has their particular way of their awe and love of God. It's a personal connection in the heart, mind and heart on each and every one according to his capacity. As it's written and explained in the Holy Zohar, al posik, on the posik in Mishlei, you say it every week in Aisha's Chayil, neide b'sha'arim baila. So the posik says, neide b'sha'arim baila, her husband is known in the gates. So the Zohar explains her husband goes on the Eibishter, the Baal. In Yom Chasanos is Emat and Teireh. The Ish and Isha is the Eibishter, Knesset Yisrael, and the Shamas, and the souls. And the word Sha'areha, neide b'sha'arim, comes from the word kol chad v'chad lefum shuri delay. In other words, every individual, according to his measure, according to his personality, according to his emotional state, is known to God, to the Baal, to neide b'sha'arim ba'ala. So what do we see from this? Even when it comes to halacha, which is not about our personal internal connection to Hashem, there's distinctions. So though the Torah does have a law for everyone, but to find it may not be easy, not everyone merits, how much more so when it comes to things that are our emotional state, our ava and yira, our love and awe of God. How much more so there's distinctions between one and the other, each one according to lefum shura delay. So all this amplifies the point and the question that even the Sfarim that are built on Torah and Chazal still makes it difficult for us, the Gavra, the individual, to derive the personal directive necessary. So when a person is dealing, for example, with an issue, bein adam lechavere, maybe jealousy, it may be anger, it may be a grudge, or bein adam lemokim, he's having difficulty focusing on davening, or learning, or arousing and awakening a love and awe of God. So the Torah has the answers. The Torah is telling us we have to have that. But for us to find a tailored, customized directive and guidance, that is difficult for a person to find. So all this builds the case that Sfarim have limitations. So how is Tanya different? And why is it not preferable then to be able to find a personal audience with a Rebbe, to be able to speak to him, so he can address our personal concerns tailored to our needs? Obviously taking from Torah, but taking from Torah and addressing us. So now comes the answer. after this long introduction, and we'll soon understand the reason for this introduction. Not that the Alter Rebbe is coming to negate all these Sfarim. They're all Sifrei Torah. The Alter Rebbe himself said his Sefer is Mipi Sofrim, Mipi Seferim, Miyusid on the Pasuk, and written Mipi Melukat, gathered and aggregated from Sofrim and Seferim. So obviously he's using the Sfarim to write Tanya. So what's unique about Tanya? So he says the following. New paragraph in the introduction now. B'yedei makirei ka'amina. Using a statement, this is based on the Gemara in Tainus, Daf Tezvav. He says, B'yedei makirei ka'amina, which means, I speak, however, of those who know me well and recognize me. Yedei makirei, know me and recognize me. The truth is, as we'll see in a moment, that it's deeper than just they know me and recognize me. It's also that the Alter Rebbe knows and recognizes the people who are going to be reading the Tanya. As he continues. And who are these people that know me and I know them? Him kol echad ve'echad ma'anshe shleimenu shebemindinasenu v'smucha shala. Every one of our faithful who lives in our country and the lands adjacent to it. Asher hoya hadibur shel chiba motzei b'neinu. We know each other intimately well. Why? With whom words of affection have been frequently exchanged. Meaning the Alter Rebbe exchanged words of affection. Chassidim exchanged words of affection. The Alter Rebbe responded, reciprocated. V'gilu lefanai kol talumas libam umoicham. And who have revealed to me all the secrets of their heart and mind, ba'avedas Hashem hatluya belev, in the service of God, which is dependent on the heart. So the Alter Rebbe is establishing here is a unique element here. All the Sfarim we spoke about till now don't have this element of a personal, intimate connection. In other words, Tanya was not written in the abstract, in a vacuum. It wasn't just the Alter Rebbe taking Divrei Torah and applying it to life situations. It was based on and connected after years of the Alter Rebbe interacting intimately. It's a very powerful expression. Talumas libam, not just what's in their heart. The deepest secrets, so to speak. In every possible way. Definitely includes the positive and also some of the challenges. So therefore, the Tanya is an outgrowth of a personal interaction and communication of the Alter Rebbe. Now, the Alter Rebbe is not just another person. He is someone who's kol kulei, his whole being is permeated with Torah. So when the Alter Rebbe interacted with the Chassidim, the ones that came to see him, he was using Torah and addressing their particular issues. That's what makes Tanya unique, as he's going to elaborate a bit more now about the Sefer itself and how it was written. But this is the unique element. Let's read on and then we'll explain. See, so far we've said words of affection. Now why did I say Yedei Makirei Kamina? Which one is it? In the Gemara, it's going that they know the person. The Gemara is talking a particular situation, knowing a certain person. There it's in the Lumazeh, in a negative way. But here you have to say, the Alter Rebbe wasn't saying just that you know me, that you know me, but I know you. Because you revealed all your secrets. So in other words, it's haba hatali, it's interconnected. When you're speaking to someone that you trust and you share your most intimate dimensions of your heart and mind, so it's both you trust him, you know him, that's why you're opening up, but he also knows you. So it's a reciprocal, intimate connection, which also comes to explain what a Rebbe is in the role of all of this. He's not just a compiler of Sfarim, which is part of it, but he also has a relationship with the reader, with the learner, an intimate relationship. And we'll soon compare it to the Sfarim, the other Sifrei Yira that he described before. So now he continues. And here he goes when he's talking. So they revealed the innermost secrets of their heart and mind. And then he continues. Eleim Titef milosi, v'lesheni eit sefer bikuntresim elu. May my words percolate to them. He's using here a lashon. V'lesheni eit sefer, and my tongue be as the pen of the scribe in these kuntresim, in these manuscripts that are entitled Hanikroim b'shem Likutei Amorim, that are called Likutei Amorim, selected discourses. So in other words, what he's putting into the words in Tanya are not just ideas. They are a result of our interconnection that we've had in an intimate way. What are these writings? He says they're melukotim mipisvarim upisefrim kadei she'elya nishmosim edam hamufursamim etzlenu, which have been selected from books and teachers, the same language he used on the Sharblat and the cover page of Tanya, the heavenly saints whose souls are in Gan Eden and who are renowned among us. He's referring to his teachers, the Baal Shem Tov, the Magid. Chassidim say that that's Mipi Seifrim, Mipi Sfarim is the Maral and the Shalah. And then he continues, V'ktsas mehem, this is going back where he's taking the material from. But remember, the key focus here is not just where he's taking the material from, but who it's addressing and in what manner. He's applying it in the personal communications that he's had, the loving communication, as people opened up to the Alter Rebbe. But he continues on who the teachers are, who his mentors are. V'ktsas mehem nirmozim lechakimin be'igris hakedesh mirabeseinu sheberetz hakedesh. The subjects that we're discussing in this Likutei Amorim, in these manuscripts, in these writings, are hinted to, the wise, in the sacred letters, epistles of our teachers in the Holy Land. Tibana v'sekena b'mheira v'yameinu amen. May it be built and established speedily in our days. V'ktsosam shamaiti mipiyim hakedesh b'yesem po'imanu. And some of them I have heard from their saintly mouths when they were still here with us, meaning in Russia. So he's referring to the Rav Mendel HaRadoker, who after the Magid's passing, the Alter Rebbe saw him as his teacher, and other Talmidei Magid that went there to Yisrael as well. Avram Kalisker. There's a whole discussion about Avram Kalisker and the Alter Rebbe, which is not relevant to our point here. But he's referring to these students of the Magid. He says both in letters and also what we heard directly from them. So all this is the basis of what he put into writing. And what do they consist of? Now he's going back to the point of what do they consist of, these teachings? They're not just taken from these books and from these teachers. Remember, they're part of a result of interactions. So they have the human connection part. The kulam, he says, all these writings that I just referred to, hein tshuvis al shailas, they are all answers to questions, shailas rabbis, to many questions. Asher sheilin be'etza kol anshe shleimenu d'midonasenu tamid, the many questions which are faithful in our country have constantly asked of me, kol echad lefi erkei, that seeking advice, each according to his station, to his state, losis eitzes benafshem ba'avedas Hashem, to receive moral guidance in the service of God. So he's going back to that you opened your hearts to me, you know me, I know you, we recognize each other because we've communicated for these years, and in response to everything I've learned from you, and everything that I've heard from you, I've now put it into writing, answers to all the questions you've asked me, each one according to your needs. Not just a general Mamayla Lamato, from the top down directives, but as a result of personal communications. And the Alter Rebbe met with people individually. And these are the eitzes. This is a book of eitzes in Avodas Hashem, each one according to their needs. Okay, so here is what the Alter Rebbe introduces now that is unique about Tanya. Let's elaborate a moment, and then we'll continue. So what's in the Nekudah? The Nekudah is like this. A Sefer, open up a Chumash, Torah Shebiksav, Torah Shebal Peh, or the Sfarim, like he said, even Sfari, Sifrei Yireh, books on piety based on human logic. Seichel Anushi. Books of piety based on Harei Kodesh, Chazal. So this is a Torah given, especially with Harei Kodesh, that's Mamish from Hashem. Yisrael, Araisa v'Kudsha B'richu Kul Echad, as we learned earlier. It's coming straight from God. Nothing could be better. However, not everybody can derive the personal advice that when you go into the Rebbe and you ask him a question about anything that you're struggling with, he knows how to take out of Torah and give you an answer that's personalized. Says the Alter Rebbe, my Sefer Tanya is not just coming from Torah. It's coming from Torah as applied to your personal life. And you can imagine that when the Alter Rebbe saw people individually, a person of that stature, he experienced personally their issues. It wasn't just advice as an outsider. There's a story with the Mittler Rebbe who said that every time he gives someone advice, he had to find it inside his own heart and soul. So it's an intimate connection in a subtle way. So the Alter Rebbe is introducing that he's writing a sefer that has that saturated with that intimate relationship that he's had with people. So for those that met the Alter Rebbe, it's very clear that the Tanya has all the milas, because it also has that which other Sfarim would not have. It for everyone and individually tailored to each one. But here comes the big question. What about those that never met the Alter Rebbe? How could you say, Yede Makire Kamino? You would say, okay, for those that know the Alter Rebbe, or the Alter Rebbe knows them. But now we're 7 generations later. And even then, not everybody met the Alter Rebbe. So very basic on a very balabatisha level, when you're talking about a Rebbe like the Alter Rebbe, and he didn't meet one person or 2 people, he met many, many people. So he saw the spectrum. Even people not even close to the erech of the Alter Rebbe. Lahavdil, I'll say. A therapist. Someone that has a chachmas hanefesh. When they have experience, they don't have to meet every person on earth to be able to give very personal advice, because when you meet enough people, not Kamuvan, and obvious that everybody's different, but you get a sense, if you're talking about an abstract professor who's writing ideas based on his logic, or even based on Torah, or even Torah, but he's not met anybody and has never had hands-on, on-the-ground experience. So the ideas can be great ideas, but can you say that it's filled with directives that are personalized? Maybe a little, but not to everyone. But you're talking about an Alter Rebbe, a person who cared and loved and was loved. And that type of communication went on as he just describes it. A very personal description here. It's like a very confidential, personal communication with his chassidim. And they shared with him, so you can imagine after meeting hundreds, if not thousands of chassidim, he had an intimate understanding, not just Malmayla Lamata, Torah, Das Elyon, knows what a person is like we learned earlier about Yeshua, or Rab Huna Rab Papa, that the Ramban, the Gemara in Brachas, the Ramban is addressing, who had a special power, Ruach Hashem Bam, the Eibishter Spirit that gave them the ability to recognize Shishim Ribui, all the different perspectives. But that was from above down. It wasn't necessary because they met these people. I'm sure Yeshua and Moshe before him, and Rabbi Huna Rab Papa, definitely met individuals who came to them for advice. But the Alter Rebbe is saying that he, and it's not a question of comparing, also met people on the ground in a way that you shared the most intimate things. It doesn't say anywhere that Yeshua or Rab Huna Rab Papa wrote a sefer based on their personal interactions with people. They wrote Sfarim, or they repeated Yeshua, the words of Hashem that went through him as a Novi. The Alter Rebbe is adding that there is a personal interaction, and that personal interaction changes everything, because it takes Torah and applies it in das Tachtin in human communication. So based on that, Yedei Makira is not just necessarily the people Alter Rebbe actually met. It means people, he knew the human condition. He had a pulse, his pulse on the state of the human condition. That's one point. Number two, if you add in what the Ramban says, that there were people like Rab Huna Rab Papa that you make a Baruch Chacham HaRozim, and perhaps Alter Rebbe is hinting to that, can move him with anivus and humility. So then what do you come away from that? That the Alter Rebbe, Taka the Eibishter gave him a kayach as a Rebbe, a Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation, that he has that element, in addition to what he interacted. So you have now both milas. And then the fact that he wrote it in Tanya, in Sefer Tanya. The Alter Rebbe wrote in Tanya. Tanya now becomes Teireh. Teireh is Nitzchias. And he put it into the introduction of Tanya. And he wrote, and he left Yedei Makira Kamina. That means that it has directive that anyone that will learn Tanya will be able to find those eitzes. And furthermore, this is the Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe explains. Furthermore, it's an asinis keach that when you learn Tanya and you make an effort, it's not just coming automatically. You make a personal effort, and you a yigiyah, aveda b'keach hatzmi b'kaf shalei, ubacharta b'chaim. You choose to study Tanya. That Alter Rebbe gives keach, that you'll be my yedei makirei, that I will know you intimately and you will know me. The Rebbe Rashab says in Teireh Shalom, very interesting expression. He says the Alter Rebbe, he put himself, he wrote himself in Tanya. You have the Rebbe there, and he says that when you learn Tanya, you're speaking with the Rebbe. Like al derech hanon nafshi ksovis yehovis. But there it's still mamayla lamata. The Eibishter invests himself. I have put my soul in these words. Anoichi is Rosh Tevis, anon nafshi ksovis yehovis. But here it goes even further, because he had met human beings in their struggles. And these struggles are struggles that all of us deal with. And that's what the Alter Rebbe is adding in Tanya. So it has all these eitzes. Now, we're going to learn next week, we're going to continue and see that the Alter Rebbe takes it even further. That just in case you can't understand from Tanya, he also gives an eitzah what to do. So we see Tanya has, to put it in different areas, both the Mamayla Lamata of Teireh. Look, the whole Tanya is, you say, Dosi Bahari Kedesh, no question. It starts Tanya, B'Seif Peder Gimel Danida, filled with Chazal, filled with Teireh Shabbat Peh, Kabbalah, Nigla. Now, for all sides, it's a Teireh Dika Sefer. So it has all the milas of a Sifri Yira, that's Teireh. But it also has the milah of the Alter Rebbe interacting with people. And that makes Tanya unique. Perhaps unique like no other Sefer. That's really what we derive from this. And therefore, the importance of learning Tanya is that you have Teireh coupled with personalization. Kodev elecha dover me'ed. Elecha, which refers to every Jew in every given situation. So this has been Tanya Applied. If you want to listen to previous programs and other resources, please go to chsidusapply.com. Gute Woche, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
This has been My Life, Tanya Applied with Rabbi Simon Jacobson. Please join us again next week. Visit chsidusapply.com for archived classes and more resources.